U.S. and Pakistani troops held a joint military exercise focused on counterterrorism training as regional tensions remain high amid strained relations between Washington and Tehran. U.S. and Pakistan Army soldiers this week completed training at Pakistan's National Counterterrorism Center during exercise Inspired Gambit, a bilateral drill aimed at improving combined infantry skills, small unit tactics, and counterterrorism operations, the CENTCOM said. The exercise comes against the backdrop of heightened U.S. Iran tensions following President Trump's military attack threat to act in support of anti-regime protesters and rioters. Pakistan, which shares a long and sensitive border with Iran, has sought to balance its regional relationships while maintaining close security cooperation with the United States. Military officials said the training emphasized interoperability, urban combat techniques, and responses to asymmetric threats, reflecting shared concerns over militant networks operating across borders in South and West Asia. Both sides described the exercise as part of a broader effort to enhance readiness and professional exchanges between the two armies. U.S.-Pakistan defense ties have fluctuated in recent years, shaped by counterterrorism cooperation, regional stability concerns, and shifting geopolitical alignments. Still, joint exercises such as Inspired Gambit underscore continued military engagement between the two countries. Pakistan has repeatedly called for de-escalation between Washington and Tehran, warning that instability along its western frontier could have direct security and economic consequences for the region.
As you know, Iran canceled the hanging of over 800 people. They were going to hang over 800 people yesterday, and I greatly respect the fact that they canceled.
U.S. President Donald Trump on Friday issued a statement praising Iran's leadership for canceling what he said were more than 800 scheduled executions. "I greatly respect the fact that all scheduled hangings, which were to take place yesterday, have been canceled by the leadership of Iran," Trump said in a statement released under his name. "Thank you." Iranian authorities have not immediately confirmed the figures cited by Trump or publicly detailed the scope of any decision to halt executions. Iran routinely faces international scrutiny over its use of capital punishment, which human rights groups say is among the highest in the world. The statement marks a rare instance of public praise from Trump toward Iran's leadership amid decades of hostility between the two countries and ongoing tensions over the protests and rioting. During his presidency, Trump pursued a policy of maximum pressure against Tehran, including withdrawing the United States from the 2015 nuclear agreement and reimposing sweeping economic sanctions, and just last year bombed the country. It remains unclear what prompted Trump's remarks, or whether they were based on official communications from Tehran. Iranian state media did not immediately report on the claim. Analysts say any suspension of executions, if confirmed, would be closely watched by international rights organizations and foreign governments, particularly as Iran continues to face diplomatic pressure over human rights following the protests in the country that claimed thousands of lives, according to independent monitoring groups.
Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Oman have stepped in behind the scenes to pull the United States back from the brink of military action against Iran. According to a senior Saudi official speaking to AFP, the three Gulf states launched what was described as a long, frantic, last-minute diplomatic effort to convince U.S. President Donald Trump to give Iran a chance to show good intentions, warning that any strike could trigger grave and uncontrollable blowback across the region. The official said it was a sleepless night of diplomacy, aimed at diffusing what could have become yet another explosive conflict in the Middle East. Dialogue, the official stressed, is still ongoing to consolidate the fragile trust that has now emerged. At the height of tensions, some U.S. personnel were moved out of the Al Udeid air base in Qatar, one of America's most important military hubs in the region. U.S. missions in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait issued security warnings as fears mounted that Washington was preparing to strike Iran over its violent crackdown on protesters. The United States had repeatedly warned it could intervene militarily if Iran carried out executions of demonstrators. Tehran, in turn, threatened retaliation, warning it would strike U.S. military and shipping targets across the Gulf, where American bases and assets are heavily concentrated. But after days of escalating threats, President Trump shifted course. Trump said he had received assurances from what he called very important sources on the other side that Iran would halt executions. He later announced that at least one Iranian protester would no longer face the death penalty, citing reports aired by Fox News.
No, I haven't heard about that, and there is no any hanging today or tomorrow or whatever. That's
Friday?
I can tell you, I'm confident about that. There is no plan for hanging at all.
On his Truth Social platform, Trump wrote that the Iranian protester had been spared after his warnings, adding that others could also benefit, and calling it good news that he hoped would continue. U.S. military tensions also appeared to ease. Reuters reported that the security alert level at the Al Udeid base in Qatar has now been lowered. Aircraft that were moved out during the alert are gradually returning, and personnel who were advised to leave have been allowed back on base. Still, the situation remains volatile. Iran has vowed to defend itself against any foreign threat after Trump said he would watch it and see before deciding whether military action is off the table. Iran's judiciary confirmed that a protester feared to be facing imminent execution would not receive the death sentence. The protests themselves represent the most serious challenge to Iran's leadership since the Islamic Republic was founded in 1979. What began as demonstrations over economic grievances quickly evolved into a nationwide uprising. Rights groups say at least 3,428 people have been killed in the government crackdown. They accuse Iranian authorities of imposing a sweeping internet blackout to hide the scale of the violence. Monitoring group NetBlocks says the blackout has lasted more than 156 hours. Iranian officials argue the protests were infiltrated by outside elements seeking to provoke President Trump into launching a new war. Iran's justice minister said that after January 7th, the demonstrations were no longer protests, but criminal acts. Despite claims of calm, verified videos show bodies lined up in a morgue south of Tehran, wrapped in black bags, as grieving families searched for missing relatives. Meanwhile, U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham has pushed back against reports that Trump has ruled out military action entirely. Graham said headlines claiming Trump had gotten cold feet were inaccurate, insisting that decisive action against the Iranian regime remains on the table. As diplomacy races against time, the message from the Gulf is clear. An attack on Iran would not stay contained. For now, pressure, warnings, and fragile assurances have pulled the region back from the edge, but the standoff remains far from over.
Over the past year, we observed an escalation of attacks by Israel targeting nations such as Syria, Iran, and Lebanon, and the intensification of divide and rule operations across a vast region stretching from Somaliland to Iran. This policy is based on the illusion that Israel can ensure its own security by destabilizing its neighboring countries. And there are social ties. Therefore, since everything that happens in Iran concerns us very deeply, we are following these developments extremely closely. It is also in our vital interest that Iran resolves its problems with key international actors and avoids unstable scenarios that could spread throughout the entire region. Therefore, our primary objective is to ensure we never reach a point where the use of force becomes necessary. However, regrettably, we witnessed something different in the past few months. During the 12-day conflicts, we were confronted with a limited yet significant assault, initially from Israel and subsequently from America. And fortunately, this particular offensive eventually ceased at a certain juncture. The prospect of this situation repeating itself, it's coming to pass, is certainly not something we would approve of. We absolutely want problems to be resolved through dialogue. That widespread instability in Iran would be far below the region's capacity to handle. I believe they are fully capable of handling this matter. Therefore, we will continue our diplomatic efforts, God willing. America and Iran will resolve this issue between themselves, either through mediators or through other actors or by direct negotiations. We are also closely following this issue. We also know that Israel is pursuing a systematic and deliberate policy on this matter. We know that the Netanyahu government is essentially not very keen on implementing this peace plan that the international community collectively wants to see enacted. Their ultimate goal is for Palestinians to leave Gaza. But the international community, primarily propelled by the momentum generated by the regional countries, and with the United States now fully throwing its weight into the matter, has successfully brought this peace stage to its current juncture. Now, as we move into the second phase, in recent days, the Palestinian Technical Committee, which our group has agreed upon taking over Gaza's administration, is the primary priority. Afterwards, the declaration of the Peace Council, and then the selection of the executive board that will manage the daily operations on behalf of the Peace Council, and its subsequent commencement of work. During this period, there is a whole set of procedures that need to be carried out.